Good afternoon, Spartonians. Happy Friday, September 15th. You can see the agenda today. We are reviewing Locke. You guys have a quiz to take on Locke and Hobbes, just a few questions. And then you have an online discussion to do by next Monday. I'll get more into that in a little bit. Yesterday in class, you had 6 questions to answer reading about John Locke, right? So very similar to how we did the video yesterday for Hobbes. We're going to do the same thing again here today for Locke. Again, it's a video, right? You've got some notes up on the screen. So if you need to pause the video so you could write something down, if you need to rewind something, obviously you have it at your own control, right? No punishment for having to watch the video multiple times or run it at your own pace. Locke is a couple years younger than Hobbes, right? Locke was 1632 to 1704. Our cantankerous looking friend, Thomas Hobbes, 1588 to 1679. So there was a few years of overlap. Hobbes has a different philosophy of government than John Locke, right? We see that right away from the beginning. Although Locke was alive for the English Civil War and the Glorious Revolution, right? The reestablishment of the English monarchy and the reestablishment of peace in England. They disagreed, all right? They both had an understanding of the nature of man. Thomas Hobbes says the nature of man was a cold, brutish life. It was short, it was solitaire. We know that John Locke does not have the same idea, right? First question, how does Locke describe the natural state of man? We can go right to the document and see. Natural state of man. Is this perfect state of freedom? Perfect state of freedom, at equilibrium, harmonious with society. But I do want to point out to you that although man is free and man is equal, we do need to understand that at the end of his argument, he does talk about man feeling unsafe. While not as dark and gruesome as Thomas Hobbes, not nearly as awful as Thomas Hobbes, there is a component of threat, of danger. Thus, the requirement for government. Again, because there is nothing worse than man. We go on to question 2 from the DBQ. What rights are naturally held by man, right? If man is equal, if man is free, what rights are his? It's pretty specific here, right? The rights of man, the natural rights, the natural laws. Man has the right to life, health, liberty, and possessions. Possessions is an interesting word. We're going to get into this a little bit more next week. Both Hobbes and Locke talk about the necessity of government, not just to keep man at peace, not just to keep man safe, not just to keep man alive, but it's to protect property. It's to protect industry. That's something we need to dig into a little bit here. When can those rights be taken away? When can the natural rights be taken away? Well, he says it right here. Those rights can be taken away if a person has done the same to another. If you break the law, you lose your freedoms. If you break the law, you lose your rights. Pretty straightforward stuff here, all right? Basically, what he's more or less getting into is this kind of social contract, an agreement. But here's what we need to understand. A fundamental difference between Hobbes and Locke is over the social contract. Hobbes argued that the social contract was between citizens and each other to agree to give up their rights to empower a government. And once those rights were given up and given to the government, we're done. The government is in charge. They have all the power and all the control. The people are equal. They do what they're told. Locke's not quite the same. Locke argues, okay, what is the role of the government? What must the government have? Locke argues that the social contract is between the people and the government. Right here it says, he's talking about why would any man want to subject themselves to a government? Why would they want more of this? Well, it was obviously to keep them safe, protect their property, protect their industry. But right here it says that any government that is to be established must have the consent of the people. So the social contract has changed. Locke believes in a limited form of government, one that only enforces the natural laws, life, liberty, property. Those can only be taken away when you are a violator of the law. The government is necessary to continue with these laws, to enforce these laws, and to make sure that the government themselves cannot be tyrannical, to make sure the government themselves cannot be oppressive, to make sure the government themselves cannot take things from people unjustly. Hobbes argues that the government must have consent of the people. The social contract for John Locke is between the citizens and the government. If the citizens violate the contract, if they violate the law, they suffer the consequences. There's punishments. They could lose life, they could lose liberty, they could lose property. So specifically, right, because there's literal understanding and there's metaphorical understanding. If you lose life, that means you're executed. If you lose liberty, that means you go to prison. If you lose property or possession, that means you're probably fined. On the opposite side of that, if the government violates the social contract, if the government is going against enforcing the natural laws, what do the people do? They overthrow the government. They remove the government. They re-elect a different candidate. I mean, it could be a whole host of things. Perhaps they start all over. John Locke was very influential. John Locke was very influential in the foundation of the United States. Most of the Declaration of Independence is founded on John Locke's ideas, right? Thomas Jefferson. There are certain inalienable rights bestowed upon us from our Maker. They are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Clearly comes from John Locke, life, liberty, and possession, right? I'm pretty sure I've covered everything here. I do want to make sure that, yep, so we got the social contract, natural law, right? Natural law and these unalienable rights, they're the same thing, right? It's life, liberty, and property. Locke believes in a limited government only enforcing those. It's a significantly different scope and tone compared to Hobbes, right? Hobbes is talking about man being in chaos, and you have to have this powerful government to keep man in awe, keep them amazed, keep them quelled. John Locke's not that guy. We're free, we're equal. We've got some problems. Perhaps we could band together, let these guys make sure that these rules are enforced, and then we're good. Copacetic. Hopefully you submitted your discussion posts, right? Kind of ran through these, we're good there. Or your answers to the questions. Hopefully you submitted that by now. You have a quiz, right? You can click the link. The link will take you right to the quiz. I want to make sure my link works. My link does work. 7 questions, 7 points, all multiple choice. Should be straightforward, right? If you read the stuff, if you paid attention, if you watched the videos, easy peasy. Before the end of first hour on Monday. And the reason why the time is weird is because I need to read through your posts prior to my second period prep so I can create the video for Tuesday. So I need you to have this done. Back this up here. Nah, you know what? No, I'll leave it at 11:10. I could make it during lunch. Okay. So before Monday at 11:10 a.m. 11:10, before 11:10 a.m. What I need you guys to do is make 2 discussion posts. I'm going to read you this little setup. So we're talking about Hobbes and we're talking about Locke. Thomas Hobbes advocated for an absolute government controlled by a singular person, a king, as being the best solution to keep man at peace and promote industry and property. Hobbes argued that the only way to establish peace was for all men to permanently give up his rights and agree with one another that the government has the power to make decisions. The social contract. John Locke argued that the best way to ensure man remains free and safe was to establish limited government that only protected life, liberty, and the ownership of property, natural rights. In Locke's opinion, the social contract was between man and the government. Man gave up rights to empower the government to protect life, liberty, and property. But if the government violated the social contract, the government was to be overthrown. So my question to you, whose idea of government structure is better for today? Locke or Hobbes? And explain why. You have one that is advancing an absolute power. You have one that is proposing a limited power. Who's better? Which is the better idea? Which would be the better form of government? Directions. You must make 2 posts by the due date and time. Again, by 11:10, so I can review the posts, film the next lesson before our class starts. I shouldn't, again, if it's 11:10, I should have enough time. One of your posts may express your opinion of whose idea is better, and the other post may be in response to a classmate's post explaining why you support or oppose their opinion. What I don't want for the 16 of us is to have 16 individual posts that are not in connection to one another. This is a discussion, so there should be some interaction. If you're one of the kids that are going to get to this right away, your first post can be expressing your ideas. Who is better and why? If you're a person that comes in a little bit late, you can make your first post in response to somebody else's. Maybe you support it, maybe you oppose it. As long as you explain why, that's fine. The other option is you could wait for posts to come in, and then you can make 2 posts replying to classmates' posts explaining why you support or oppose their opinions. Again, it is a discussion. All right. Maybe you make your post saying Hobbes is the greatest guy ever, and here's why. Someone responds to you, they criticize or they critique or they disagree with you. Perhaps you respond to them. That's 2 posts. Got to make 2 posts. One post can be your opinion. One post can be a response to someone else's. Either way, what you're being graded on, 2 posts, so 10 points, 5 points each. Scores are determined by the posts being logical. Like, I got to be able to understand what's going on here. Your posts need to involve critical thought. Like, if you're responding to somebody else, are you even addressing their issue? Are you even addressing what is being said? It's got to be relevant to the topic, and you've got to incorporate the philosopher's ideas. You can't just say Thomas Hobbes was the OG, he's the greatest. That's not getting you any points. I have made a post, all right? So if you wanted to respond to me, you could. If you wanted to just express your own opinion, obviously a logical choice. In today's world, with mass violence, poverty, and war, a strong absolute government is necessary to bring peace. A strong, powerful government would establish laws and rules and have the ability to efficiently enforce them. I think Hobbes' view of man giving up rights to establish an all-powerful government is the best structure for government today. Although people would not be as free, they would be safer, and the world would be more predictable, allowing for growth and progress. The answer is logical. The answer is, relevant to our topic. I make reference to Hobbes's ideas, specifically mentioning his all-powerful government to keep man at peace, to allow for growth, and I explain why it's necessary. We've got some absolute chaos in the world. We need some strong governmental force to solve these problems so we can get back to prospering, so we can get back to growth. You can agree with that idea. You can oppose that idea. So feel free to respond. 2 posts by Monday 11:10 a.m. is when they need to be done by. Hopefully your lock answers are in. Do your quiz today. Then start, keep an eye on these discussion posts. You guys have a great weekend. I'll see you next Tuesday. For signups, remember, next week, I am only available on Tuesday. I'm out of the building on Tuesday, so you need to meet with me on Tuesday. If Tuesday does not work for you, you can send me an email and we can figure out a time potentially. Otherwise, you're expected to come in, touch base with me on Tuesday, at least for a little bit. All right. Now with that, have a great weekend and I'll see you next week. Go Spartans.